You're listening to Who's Tom and Dick, a weekly podcast with your hosts, Martin Weavers, fighting stage 4 lung cancer, and Patrick Mortimer, living with heart disease. Why not grab yourself a cup of coffee, sit back, and enjoy the chatter as we discuss and share information, talking about tough subjects, and offering help, support, and motivation with a positive mental attitude.
Good afternoon, Pat.
How you doing, Martin? Nice to be
doing?
back again.
I know.
On another Friday afternoon.
We're in a different place again.
Yep. Out on location, you could say, couldn't you?
We're on tour, kind of thing, with all these different places we go.
This is the second time we've been to Chelmsford, isn't it?
Oh, of course, yeah.
BBC Radio Essex.
Yeah, we're actually in a recording studio of people who actually do podcasts. So this is going to be really, really strange, and but it's not every day that we're allowed into the backyard, this kind of thing, behind a charity or a trust for cancer. But today we're lucky to have Toby with us, who's the CEO and founder member of the charity of the Robin Cancer Trust. And welcome to our podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome, Toby Freeman.
Yeah.
I'll say his surname if you don't want to.
Well, okay then.
Sorry about that, Toby.
Sorry, Toby.
Right.
Yeah,
He's not always great on introductions.
This is why we're a double act.
But anyway.
We actually used to be a comedy double act at one time. But although that wasn't
tell.
funny. That wasn't funny. Anyway, can you tell us just basically how your charity first started?
Yeah, of course. So the charity story starts with our namesake, which is Robin. So Robin was I'm the youngest of three. Rob was the middle brother. So when he was 23, I was 21, he was diagnosed with a rare form of testicular cancer called a mediastinal germ cell tumour, which wasn't a term we'd come across at all and didn't mean anything to us when you're sat in that room when someone just breaks that news to you. So
was you with him in the room when that was diagnosed?
Yeah. So Rob was like prime of his life, young, fit, healthy, didn't smoke, barely drank, always said he was fun enough without alcohol. I didn't understand that. But like the kind of guy that would run 5 miles a day. I remember him in the lead up moaning he could only run 2 miles a day. I was like, yeah, okay, well, I can't do that. That's still really impressive. He was working on his career, had just moved out and was going to university 1 day a week. So just full steam ahead, 23, prime of life. He had some symptoms that he ignored that we weren't aware of because he wasn't at home anymore. And actually, he was diagnosed through having a blood clot in his arm. So I used to work in a bar and I used to come home and watch House MD, the TV program, as a sort of decompress. Mm-hmm. I remember waking up in the morning and my brother being like, my arm is red, painful burning and really swollen. And I said to him, I've honestly just watched a program. I think you've got a blood clot. And obviously, he just ignored it for a day. And then he went to the doctors and they told him it was viral. And the next day, my mum just drove him up to our walk-in centre and was like, this is wrong. You are young, fit and healthy. You need to be looked at. They did a blood test, tumour marker test, it turns out, and they admitted him. And then there was this week that went by where he was getting more and more and more tests. And everyone's thinking, maybe he's got the blood clot could be he'd had a knee operation, he'd had been surgery, maybe, you can get blood clots from surgery. No one's thinking cancer. And then after a week, we get pulled into this little side room. And, even having no one been affected by cancer in our immediate family, the little side room's never a good thing. And then the doctor is obviously visibly upset. And there was me, my brother and my mum. And they said, yes, you've got cancer. And I think for everyone else in the room, it just went, that white noise just happened. And it was just, mum was shaking. Rob was just numb, staring at the floor. What they actually said was, Rob, you've got a mediastinal germ cell tumour. And I remember I had to ask, is that cancer? Because that doesn't mean anything to me.
No,
that's just a series of words. And they said, yes, that's cancer.
So can you just say that? What's it called again?
Mediastinal germ cell tumour, which effectively was, the mediastinum is your chest cavity. And Rob had a rogue testicular cell that from birth had never made its way down when your cells are turning into what they should do, had just got lost. And all a tumour is a cell that replicates completely uncontrollably. And his tumour had grown and wrapped itself around his heart and his lungs to the size of a grapefruit.
Wow.
So he was getting a bit of fatigue, getting these night sweats. He'd had sudden change of bowel habits, but that's not uncommon in our family. We all have IBS and other things going on. So all of these things were just passed off as nothing. So Rob was then a cancer patient, and it was a stage 4, so very late stage, very young person, sent up to the specialist in London, and he spent this 10, 11 month period up there being treated with some horrendously aggressive but necessary chemotherapy on a clinical trial, stem cell transplant that failed for my oldest brother. He was a perfect match.
Oh.
So that failed. And then after 10 months in the October, to cut a very long story short, they said, Rob, there's nothing more we can do for you. So that was just before Halloween. And then we got this period that we got to be a family again, because Rob was up in London, Mum was up in London, Dad was up in London, me and my brother were back at home.
Yeah.
You know, he's in treatment, any illness, you can't go see him. You know, there wasn't great technology available those days to keep that connected. So, we got to spend some time together, and he passed after, on the 10th of December of that year, he passed at St Helena Hospice.
Yeah, what year was that? 2011. 11, yeah.
Yeah, diagnosed and passed in the same year, January to.
Yeah. How have the family coped?
Everyone in different ways, which I think is very common in grief. Grief affects everyone differently, even within the family structure. So I would say my mum, in my brother's words, was his guardian angel that year. She was with him literally all day, every day. And thankfully, Barts in the London hospital put her up so she could literally be there with him the whole time, like invaluable debt to them to allow my mum to be there for him. Yeah. So she was in full mum mode, mama bear, you know, anything he needed, she was there doing it with him. Rob didn't cope very well that year. I think it's fair to say, just couldn't deal with his entire life plan. So he really retreated into himself, and mum was there to support through that. My dad still had his business going on, and, you know, still had to work whilst all of this was going on. And I think it's fair to say he's a practical man. He copes with, you know, the practical steps when things go wrong, when there's a death. Dad is dealing with the arrangements and everything. And it was, you know, diving into work is that catharsis. My brother and me, I don't know. I can speak for myself. I didn't cope very well that year at all. I would say I was working in bars. It's very easy to dive into alcohol, to mask your feelings, to cover up any of that. And I've talked quite openly and honestly about how I was leading a very unhealthy lifestyle. After we lost Rob, I had left my job. And I think for me, the idea of the charity was born out of that initial frustration of, we need something good to come of it. And I remember my dad, being the practical man that he is, saying very clearly, okay, we are not going to do something as a grief reaction. We are going to do something because there is a need for it. And we're going to do something that outlasts us, as in, we're not, you know, if we all get tired of this, you know, we're going to create something that is a legacy because it is necessary. Yeah. And I love him for that, because, you know, it didn't mean we just dived into something and it burnt out. It was like, we are going to build something because there is a gap and people need this. And we chose awareness because Macmillan do amazing support, cancer research do amazing research. What was missing, we felt, is if someone as young, fit, health conscious as Rob could ignore signs and symptoms to the point he had a stage 4 cancer diagnosis, anyone could. And we recognised that he was young, he had moved away from home. There were people in this time of life, especially like uni students, where we need to be educating them because they don't have mum and dad to fall back on. You know, mum calls the doctor until you're like 16, doesn't she? 17, just because that's the dynamic for a lot of people. And we need to be teaching them these life lessons. It doesn't matter if they find them now, they might, when they're 30, they'll still be useful, you know. So I think my grief reaction and my catharsis was very much focused on the charity. I wasn't working. I dived into the research, into what do we need to do? How do we build this? My dad was doing his work. And then we all just fell behind the charity as our coping mechanism, I suppose. And at various points, after a couple of years, my eldest brother stepped away because he found it really tough. It was just a constant reminder. You know, I don't think he could find that positive in it. It was just Rob's dead. And obviously my brother being an elder brother, there's a protection there, and also his stem cell failed. So I think there's an added element of I couldn't save him.
So yours didn't match?
I wasn't eligible. No, I didn't match.
Okay.
So my brother was 100% perfect match, but mine wasn't a match.
And they couldn't do it again or anything like that? Or
so Rob's chemo was so aggressive, there was a chance of him getting leukemia from it, basically affecting his bone marrow, which is what happened. He actually got diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia, which is why he needed the stem cell transplant.
Yeah.
And then there was a point where they just couldn't do it again.
No.
There's a quality of life issue. We can't, all this invasive stuff, give you more chemo. I think they offered him at the age of 24, you can do another several rounds of this chemo, but there was some minute chance that it could extend his life by a few weeks. And he was like, no, I'll just stop treatment, which what a choice to make.
Yeah.
Like,
oh God.
I can barely remember being 24 now, but I know I couldn't have made that life choice. I suppose at that point you have an element of control, don't you? Control what you can control.
Yeah.
This awareness angle seems so overlooked, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because we interviewed a ex-international young rugby player last week at the pinnacle of his career.
Playing for his country. And he had symptoms. He was ultra fit. Probably couldn't get anybody any more fit. But he had tiring symptoms. He failed a fitness test, didn't he, to find out?
Putting things off and pushing on with his career. But he started to fail fitness tests and didn't know why. And when he eventually had his diagnosis, his comments were, I was relieved because I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what. But there was no help to get him diagnosed at the time, was there?
No.
But I think that's the awareness around, when your body tells you something that you shouldn't ignore it, perhaps.
So what's your message, Toby, to young people now to check?
Absolutely. It's simply that. It's know your normals, right? And for guys, it's pretty easy because everything, for what we're talking about, testicular cancer hangs outside the body. We can actually physically check them. It's knowing yourself, knowing what your body is doing, knowing what fits outside of that, and then advocating for your own health. So we advocate checking monthly, checking regularly, hot bath or shower, everything hangs nice and loosey-goosey. You can check yourself, and then doing that repeatedly gives you a baseline. And I think that's important for, you talk about the example you just gave. Had a great baseline, knew something was wrong because the baseline is no longer there and probably not doing anything different or even working harder to keep that baseline. And that's abnormal. So whether it's a mole, whether it's our general fitness, whether it's a lump, whether it's, a swelling, it's knowing what is normal and then acting quickly. And the big thing for us is breaking down that stigma, breaking down that taboo, especially when we're talking to men generally, because there is a higher stigma and higher taboo.
Yeah.
We need to break down that embarrassment because experience breeds empathy. We know, the three of us sitting here, going to the doctors is no big thing.
Yeah.
But to a 16-year-old or even to a grown-up who's never had any major health issues or never even considered that they might have health issues, there's a major hurdle in just getting into the doctor's door.
Oh, yeah.
And that's something we work really hard at, just trying to break that down.
And the warning signs that I've got written down here, painless swelling or a lump.
Yep.
And any change in the size or shape of your testicles or anything like that, that's the things to look out for.
Absolutely.
So did Robin have a lump in his testicles? Because you just said to us that he had this growth all around his heart and his lung.
Yep.
Yeah, where is the connection to that?
Because it's a testicular cell, he was treated with testicular chemotherapy. So the tumour was actually made up of testicular cells because it was just a testicular cell that reproduced to the size of a grapefruit. Although he didn't have what you call a primary in his testicles, they checked them, there was nothing there. And Rob was the only guy I ever knew who checked his balls regularly anyway. He'd found cysts before, had ultrasounds. He was very conscious of his testicular health amongst everything else.
Yeah.
But the reason we do testicular and ovarian is because they are technically covered under germ cell cancers.
Right.
So that's the umbrella term. They are the cells that make up the reproductive cells in men and women. So testicles or ovaries.
So this was a rogue cell.
A rogue cell.
That attached itself to the heart.
Yep. And just started reproducing. It's incredibly rare.
Never heard of that.
No, we've both read up about your trust, Robin Cancer Trust. How are you putting this message out to the world?
So we do multiple things, actually. And a big key thing for us is humour, especially when, again, we're talking to guys. A big thing is just breaking down barriers with humour. And we were talking about it today. The beauty in the humour, in big bollocks. Our campaign's called Talking Bollocks. You know, we all do it, but we're not all checking. That's sort of the basis of it. And it's big, bold, brash, and engaging. And the idea is we're making ourselves the laughing point. Mm-hmm. You can laugh with us because we're breaking down the barrier about laughing.
Yeah.
We're okaying it because we're the subjects. You can laugh at us, and that breaks the ice. And guys do this, right? Everything serious, you know, from a very young age, we're told, let's just take the piss out of it. Yeah.
Now, Toby's saying this, and we've got a huge big pair of, I'll say it, bollocks.
We'll put them away.
Which I'm actually holding up now. Yeah. And Patrick's had his photograph taken with him. So this is, I like this. I like this. It's good.
You know, and you go to, what we do fundamentally is we go into schools, we go into colleges, we go to universities and businesses, and we have these big standing signs where we wear big testicles around our heads, and we take these big latex pair of balls from our partners at Billy Bull Bags. They give them for free. And we take them into them and we break down the stigma, and we have these really engaging, really funny talks, but there's a really serious message behind it.
Of course.
You know, myself, I've been obviously affected with it with my brother. Our community engagement manager, Darren, is a testicular cancer survivor. So you get the light and shade of it. You know, we go in with humour. We get everyone to shout out, what's your favourite name? What do you call them? We do this really silly quiz. And then at the end, we talk about why it's so important, what to do, the really important health messaging behind it. So there's sort of three strings to our bow, the education, the awareness, and the support. So the education is brilliant because we're getting in front of young people. You only get one chance, and it's when they're in the curriculum. You can get like 95% of these young people in a room. You can talk to them. You can do it in assemblies or in schools, like in classes. It's hilarious when you get the head teacher or the PE teacher who's a bit cocky to come up on stage and check his balls for you. You know, that's always great. The kids remember it. And that's, the idea is that everything we do is we want to be so rememberable that even if you're in the bath 5 years later and you're having a check, you go, okay, I found something uncomfortable. What do I do? All right, there was those weird guys that came into my school years ago. What was it called? Talking Bollocks. That's easy to remember. I can Google that. And then you can find the information you need. And I think it's just about this slow burn of, you know where to find us if you've ever got anything wrong. And on our website, all the information. What happens if I found a lump? What happens when I go to the doctors? You know, there's all that. The awareness is out in the community. You know, we just take these on the road, big festivals out into the community, loads of engagement, loads of stickers, temporary tattoos, handing out life-saving awareness information, just talking to people. And that is such a experience because, you know, people come up and tell their stories. You know, I'm sure if you saw us, you would open up about what you've been through. And I love that cathartic moment where someone might not have been through testicular cancer, but cancer is one of these horrible things that actually does unite quite a lot of us because we've been affected by it.
I was talking to someone on Saturday, funny enough, and his wife has got it. I won't mention his name. His wife's got it, but he didn't want to mention the word. You know, it seems strange that people go through, his wife's going through chemotherapy and everything, and he just didn't want to mention the name. And I think that's, I like to tell everybody I've had cancer, I'm surviving, I'm living my life, got a positive mental attitude. I think that helps a lot. So
going back to Robin, then I mean he had a terrible twist of fate really there, didn't he? Because it wouldn't have helped him any amount of checking he's done on his testicles.
Not at all.
You know, and he was quite active in that department. His must have been diagnosed through a deterioration in his health that he recognised, is that?
Yes.
And it sounds as if your mother stepped in again and said, wait, get up the doctors.
Yeah,
this isn't right. Or was it really the blood clot that was the starting point?
I would say there were signs and symptoms that everyone missed, including Rob. So he had fatigue, like serious fatigue. Like after the diagnosis, there was him saying things like, well, yeah, like when I was working, I would have to go to the car and have a sleep before a meeting. You know, that's not normal, right? No. But he wasn't telling anyone.
I was going to say, did you know? Yeah, you didn't know.
He was having full night sweats, which is a really major flag for something being wrong in your body. Like waking up, not sweating in the night, completely drenched, change the sheets, needing to sleep on a towel kind of night sweats.
Right.
Again, he'd moved out. He wasn't at home. No one knew what laundry he was doing. No one was checking on that. So there were these major things, that the irritable bowel or IBS that he was diagnosed with was actually later confirmed as a symptoms. It was, it had spread and it was affecting his bowels. So he had these things. I remember it, and it wasn't just like, oh, he's got a bit of a dicky belly. I remember him not being able to go on trains because he's like, if the toilet's not working, I could have an accident. That's not normal for a 23-year-old. These are, and it's his potential embarrassment, potential not wanting to be ill because he was enjoying his time of life, thinking he was invulnerable to these sort of things that delayed all those diagnoses.
Yeah. Did he go into a shell on his own then a little bit?
Yeah, very much.
Yeah, because I know that feeling.
He never really came out of it that year either. That was hard to watch because Rob was funny, witty, never like being centre of attention, but he was just in the background being really funny and like he got on with everyone, but he did really just, you could see he just went into a shell, and it was really hard, and you see him going from really fit, really, muscle down to obviously what happens when you have all that chemotherapy as well.
So from diagnosis to him sadly passing away, how long was it?
11 months.
11 months, yeah. That's very quick, isn't it?
Yeah.
On a slightly, because we've been talking very seriously, and which is good.
Well, there's light and shade in all of it, isn't there?
But you do a lot of merchandise with your online shop, I noticed.
We do. We have a good range of ways people can support us, and we're actually. Can I talk about the podcast because it's very exciting?
Oh, I know we're on about whatever you like.
Yeah. Because one of the things we moved in from the pandemic was our community said we need more support, more sort of holistic support. Our medical teams do amazing, but what we want to do is hear other experiences, know that we're not alone. So we're launching this Thrive Against Cancer podcast next month. Although I'm saying that on a podcast, I don't know when this is going live. September, I should say.
Yeah. When will this will go out? First week of September.
6th of September.
Yeah.
We're launching it this month, which is very exciting.
Excellent.
So that's bringing together the wider cancer community and just talking about those threads and those themes that just bring us all together. Those stories, again, light and shade of chemotherapy, mental health, physical health, long-term effects, and how it affects the wider community around us, all of those things. So that's really powerful, and we have lots of resources for people on like how to talk to people with cancer, what support to give people with cancer.
That is very important. You've really hit a thing there, Toby.
Yeah, and I think the advice is saying nothing is by far the worst thing you can do. So people go, I didn't say anything because I didn't know what to say. And you're like, say
it makes you go off
anything.
People more than anything.
Yeah,
I can that's how I felt.
Are we allowed to swear on this podcast?
You can, yeah.
It is okay if you have no fallback just to say, this is shit, I'm so sorry. Okay, that's fine. You've broken down a barrier there. At least I, as the person that's been affected, know that know that you care. Not saying anything is just, it's shouts so loudly that, the silence is deafening, isn't it?
But you also find out who your true friends are.
But yeah, we do. We also do Thriver packs as well, just so if anyone listening has been affected by testicular ovarian, anyone in the UK can request one from us, and we send out a free cancer care package, which has like a colouring book, like some really good things for people going through treatment or chemotherapy, like lip balms and sweets that they can eat. Just a notepad, pen, tote bag, just some really practical things. And it was curated by our community, just saying, what do you need? Like, what would you want at point of diagnosis when the whole world's falling apart? What would be beneficial to you? So we give those out for free. So we're very lucky that we have some great supporters that make that happen. But yeah, merchandise, to go back, we have some great merchandise, T-shirts, clothes, running stuff. Like, we do lots of running events. We own a half marathon in Colchester, the Colchester Half Marathon. So yeah, we have lots of people.
And people can get this by going onto what? On your...
therobincancertrust.org.
There you go. That's the address to get on, folks, if you want to get some merchandise.
Sitting from on the opposite side of the table, I mean, I've had 2 heart attacks. So when you have a heart attack, you're in hospital, you're treated, and you come home. So you don't get time to think about anything, really. That's all. It appears to me that every time somebody gets a diagnosis, they leave that diagnosis room with no support, really, at the immediate time, and they've got to take all that information in. And a lot of them tend to turn to Google and start checking it out for themselves. Martin's a good example, not that he checked it out, but he was told he'd got lung cancer, and there's 18 different types of lung cancer. But if you Google lung cancer, you get the worst kind. So he's not actually looking at the correct information. Did any of you guys do that? Go onto Google or start to explore? Or
So we did, but actually that was a major part of why we wanted to start the charity, was there was no information.
Exactly. Yeah.
Literally none. There was one case study from, I think, mid-80s in America, and we looked at that, and that told us a bunch of medical jargon that we didn't really understand. And you look at horrendous stats because you can just about understand some of them. So when it came down to the type of cancer Rob had, there was just no information out there. And that we wanted to be that hub of information, and we tried to keep that as updated as possible. We've actually, hopefully over the next few months, we've got some funding to hire an in-house CNS, a clinical nurse specialist, so we can give better medical information to our community as well. But yes, I would say one of the things, I've spoken to a lot of survivors for our podcast, and they all say, don't Google. It's the one bit of advice, just
we
don't.
do.
We've emphasised that throughout our 46 episodes until last week when we interviewed Harvey, who said, I got straight onto Google and I found a new treatment in Germany.
He did, and he
which had won a Nobel Peace Prize or something, or Nobel Prize or something. And he went across to Germany and had that treatment. So it's not all negative, but that's not something we recommend. But he did say he ran everything that he Googled over with his oncologist.
That's the key, isn't it?
That's the key.
As long as you've got a sounding board. And I think a lot of people's advice, from what I understand from talking to them, is go to the charities for signposting, go to the forums because they're regulated, the unregulated hellscape of Google, those rabbit holes you can go down can get very dark very quickly.
What do you do to wind down, or don't you wind down? Is it always 24/7?
I'm lucky. So I reflected on this recently, actually. Like, someone asked me on another podcast, they were like, what do you think Rob would be doing now? And I think I've probably tried to emulate some aspects of his life, of what I think he would have been doing, which sounds a bit weird. I do live my own life, but fitness has become really important for me. Like Rob wrote us a letter as a family when he knew he was didn't have much time left, and one of it said, health is so important. And really, as I've got a bit older, I've taken that massively under advisement. And I'm privileged. I've got the life I never thought I would have, that Rob always wanted. Is I've got a beautiful wife, 2 amazing kids. They keep me busy enough. So I spend a lot of time just doing that. And I'm very lucky in our workplace culture at the charity is we work remotely, flexibly. So I still get to do the school runs, get to take them to classes, get to enjoy, especially while they're diddy. I've got 6 and 4. So I get to enjoy them. And I'm an avid runner. So I do enjoy, we own the half marathon, like I say, but I love running. So I'm running the marathon next year. We got a place for the charity. So
the Colchester Marathon, do you want to tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so half marathon, which is amazing. So it's an established race in Colchester that we were lucky to bring within our fundraising portfolio over the last couple of years. So we deliver it now with our partners, and it's just absolutely amazing. We get like 3,000 runners turn up on the day. It's March, so you're not quite sure what the weather's going to do. Sometimes it's a bit drizzly, sometimes it's absolutely glorious. But it's just an amazing thing for our town, or city, I should say now.
Yeah.
And just bringing those amount of people, seeing the community come out, our amazing sponsors and partners. I won't name them because no one,
Don't leave anybody out.
But they're fantastic. And it's just become a real community event. Seeing the running community is just amazing because there's just everyone supporting everyone. The local running clubs, the running Colchester community, they're just absolutely brilliant. And it's just so heartfelt. You put a lot of work into these. We shut Colchester down on a rolling road closure for the whole day. But just seeing it delivered and seeing the feedback from the runners, and obviously for the charity, although anyone can run for any charity, but all the entry money comes to us. So it's put on the event and then we keep whatever's left. Anyone can run for any charity. We try and work with other charities to get them involved as well. But it's a massive income generator for us, which allows us to do our good work out in the schools, out in the community, supporting more people. So
how can individuals get involved with your charity?
That's a good question.
I thought it might be.
Lots of ways. So our core, like I say, our core aim is to reach as many young people across the UK with our life-saving messages. So book an awareness talk. If you've got a workplace that has CSR wellbeing, has people in to do talks, just invite us in. We do them for free. Like, we love going into talks, and you'll get an amazing experience out of us. And it's a great way to help us raise our profile, mainly raise awareness. That's what we want to do. If anyone's been affected by it, please get in touch. We can support, or we can signpost to great organisations that can. If you're a governor or a parent at a school, secondary school, I would say sort of like year 10 upwards is perfect for us. Again, talk to your teachers about whether we can come in and do a talk. We can deliver them virtually, and we're working on a resource that we can send out to schools as well. So to help us achieve our goals, there's loads of ways. Just think, who do I know? Sports clubs, football clubs, rugby clubs, all of those, they're great organisations for us to go and deliver a talk to, because that's what we want to be doing. I'd be remiss and probably told off if I didn't mention fundraising. We've got loads of amazing events.
Well, that's one of my questions, funny enough. So
it'll be a bit soon for when it's gone up. In September, we're doing a Monopoly walk. So we are taking people from Old Kent Road. We're doing all the points on the Monopoly board.
Okay, yeah.
But in a slightly different, it makes the route a bit more, make a bit more sense. It's not all in order, but we end up in Angel. So we're walking about 15 kilometres across London with our testicles on our heads. In September, we've got virtual runs. So November, we do what's called the Big Ballsy Run, which is a virtual run of 10, 50 or 100 kilometres throughout November, which is Men's Health Awareness Month. And people win a giant medal. You pay to enter, and when you hit your milestone, whatever one you choose, you get a giant medal, and it has a giant pair of testicles on it.
I was going to say that. I hope it's got a pair of testicles
last year
on.
It was a swinging pair of testicles. It was absolutely brilliant. So that's a fantastic way if people are running. They can obviously walk or jog it, however they want to do it. We've got the half marathon. If people want to travel to Colchester, that's in March. It's perfect for marathon training because it's just before the major marathons in the UK, which is really good. And then we have a Pants to Cancer walk in September as well. So in Clacton, we walk from the pier in Clacton to Walton Pier, which is, I think, about 14 kilometres there and back, and you can do it one way if you want. And everyone wears pants on the outside of there. Yeah. So we do testicular and ovarian, obviously. So pants accommodates all of that. So you can either just wear your pants.
Pants to Cancer.
Yeah,
it's
brilliant.
If I'd have known, I'd have wore a pair in here.
Well, I've got a pair of pants with my community engagement manager Darren's face on it because he organised the event. So I walk with his face all over my pants. But it's there's a good 100 people come and do that. It's really, again, we have the signs and you have people at their beach hut.
Once you get your stalls up, I suppose, and people can look at those as well, can't they?
Yeah. So we do lots of silly things, and there's loads of events. We partner with loads of great organisations like Ultra Challenge events, Run for Charity, skydiving. People can do all of these amazing things for us.
What was the banner in Media City in Salford? That was yours, wasn't it?
Yes. So occasionally we do something a bit silly. So we've done a few over the years. That one was to launch Testicular Cancer Awareness Month. I want to say 2022. And we went up to Salford. It's the largest digital billboard in the UK. Mm-hmm. And we just slapped a giant pair of testicles on it and asked people,
the photograph.
What do you call yours? And we got featured in various press outlets online for it. It was I Love MCR up in Manchester really supported that campaign and helped us get them on there. And it was, just those big PR stunts are always great. We've sent a pair of testicles into space.
Really?
Yeah. So there is a video floating around the internet of... We released them for a company that does send stuff in space, and there was just a pair of bollocks hanging off this helium balloon going up into the atmosphere, and then we chased it down about 60 miles where it landed in some poor old lady's garden. But it captured it in glorious HD, it on the edge of the atmosphere, these pair of bollocks just flapping it at the upper edges of the atmosphere. So that was really fun. And then we've done a virtual world record where...
Oh, you've read my notes.
It was so good. So
I was going to say, tell us about your world record.
Yeah, so this was during COVID, and we thought, how do we raise awareness? We had social distance. I think we were obviously allowed to see each other, but we had to keep social distancing. And we're like, okay, well, we know there's a world record for the most testicular checks in one place. How do we make this a global thing? So we worked with Roundtable International to bring together, it was, how many people was it? 250 across 25 countries in 5 continents, all on a Zoom call, to basically check their balls. So it was just a perfect socially distanced community event where we broke the world record for how many people had checked themselves at once on this Zoom call. It was just one of those.
They didn't have to dangle their bollocks in front of the screen.
No, so the key was to turn it into something that wasn't too smutty. We said the key is down the pants. We don't need to see anything, but we cut the broadcast. There was 3 or 4 rugby guys.
Right.
You knew they were rugby guys.
Say no more.
Doing it together, and we were like, we need to keep an eye on those. So we delivered the whole thing, and just as we cut the broadcast, you could tell they were all about to whip them off. So we cut it literally as they all went right, and we just went right, cut. That's it.
You've got control of the microphone of the phone, or so to speak, to go.
Yeah.
And you're telling, oh, wow.
So I had a pair of these, and I was talking everyone through it, and it was really good fun.
That's some communication, though, to get 260 people in one go on one Zoom, isn't it?
Yeah. So, across, it was when we saw the stats, the 5 continents as well was amazing. I was like, this is a truly worldwide endeavour, because you never know who's going to turn up until you start the Zoom call, and people just start.
And how did you publicise this?
So we were lucky. Roundtable International.
Oh, right.
They obviously have the national roundtables, and each of the national roundtables were telling their members about it. So we instantly hit a global audience.
Yeah.
But that was just through us floating an idea with them. They really got behind it. And it was just, I think the world needed stuff like that at that time. It was a tough time.
Yeah. A bit of humour.
Yeah.
And serious note at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, which, like you said, you do, we do. So
how is your organisation mainly funded then? Is it through donations and fundraising, of course?
Yes, I mean, the world, it's been a tough few years for the world, hasn't it? So pandemic into cost of living crisis, obviously, in this country. So we were heavily reliant on what you call individual giving at one point, where people are doing stuff for you. That has seen a downturn. But what we've always tried to do is just stay ahead of the curve. So during the pandemic, we knew we needed to change everything up to be more sustainable. So we have a brilliant grants model. So we go out to fund our core costs, project costs through grant funders, people that will happily fund these kind of things. And we work really hard at those. And we've actually just received 213,000 from the National Lottery over 3 years to expand our service delivery, the education and awareness, to the Midlands and the North East, because no one was delivering in those areas whatsoever, and to get the CNS on board as well. So that for us is a huge step change as a charity. So grant fundraising is huge. The Colchester Half Marathon is massive, because that is what we would call unrestricted funding. Money comes in with no strings attached that we can then spend on, because the grants are obviously restricted.
Yeah.
Get money in, spend it very specifically on X, Y, and Z. Having that huge amount of income, like we raised 57,000 last year in profit from the half marathon. So having that to be able to go, okay, well, we can expand that, improve that. That's really big. Corporates we're very lucky to have a good base of corporate supporters, and then obviously you just have people doing amazing things for us. That's the one you can't control. You can tell people about work and they about opportunities, and they do it or they don't, but we've always been very grateful for what we're very good at is thanking everyone for whatever. Someone raises £1 or £1,000 or more, they get the same treatment. We try very hard to keep a small family charity feel, because our trustees are made up of me and my dad. My dad, I work obviously for the charity. My dad is still on the board of trustees, and we have lived experience at every point of the charity. The trustee board has survivors on it, people in the medical field that work directly with patients. The charity has numerous people that have been affected by cancer in it, and Darren is a survivor. All our ambassadors are key to what we'd call co-creating all of our resources. So it's really about, our strategy is let the community lead us. Try and keep red tape to a minimum.
One of
be
the
humorous.
Other charities that we interviewed said to us that they had a lady donate £10, and the lady said to her, "I'm sorry, it's only £10. That's all I can afford." And she said to us that it's surprising how many people don't donate because they don't think they can give enough to make a difference.
We've done a lot of work on this recently. I've just come out of a trustee away day where we've been focused on this. The next period is for us we've been in a big period of growth, which is absolutely amazing, but it comes with all the issues of growing a charity, So our next period is really consolidating. We've got this National Lottery funding, And our job over the next 3 years is not only deliver that, but make those roles sustainable, because the funding only lasts 3 years.
Yeah.
We know there's great value in that. We know the impact's going to be huge, but actually as a charity, we have to make sure that financially we can keep that up. So our next steps are a bit of stability, focusing on increasing our impact, increasing how many people we support, increasing how many people we reach. They are the fundamentals of what we do. And then just making everything sustainable so that when this funding is no longer available to us, we can continue to do the good work in those regions. And if we can, we know it works. We do it in East Anglia into London really well now. If we can replicate those in these other parts of the country, then we can replicate it in the remaining regions. So, Northwest, over into Wales, wherever we need to be. Where there is a need, we should be delivering it. That's the aim of a charity, right? As long as you are needed by your community, deliver it. And I think for us, it's just listening to that community and going, rather than saying, here's something we've created for you, isn't it great? It's, what do you need? How can we deliver that?
Yeah.
Because that's what a charity should be.
Yeah.
Don't tell people what they need. Ask them what they need and deliver it.
Yeah.
We're here to service people.
I think the biggest problem is when you are a successful charity or you grow, is that you don't lose sight of the aims and objectives, because it starts to become a big animal to manage, doesn't it? The bigger you get.
This is what we call operational drift.
Suddenly you've won this grant funding, so you have an obligation now to... And of course, you've only got so many man hours in the day. So do you have volunteers in your organisation as well?
So we have volunteers that help us at events. We don't have anyone sort of structurally in the charity, if that makes sense. Everyone's a staff member. The ambassadors do fantastic work out, either raising awareness, putting on events, or attending things on our behalf, media partners and things like that. And then we have our volunteers who, if we're at an event, will come and they can help us, reach our goals that way, handing things out. But we've never had... someone doing admin for us, for example, or being our fundraising lead. It's just not how we've been set up over the years. But exactly what you were saying there is sort of the major thing. It's don't chase grants, don't go outside of your strategic goals. You have to be super tight on those and go, right, if there's drift over here, then that's a no from us. It's okay to say no as a charity because you have your objectives, and if you're not delivering them, then you're not supporting your beneficiaries, for want of a better term, or service users, whatever each charity might say. So.
I noticed in the video that you did about Rob wanting to get to Colchester and sadly passing away at half time.
Yeah, that video. That video was created literally like maybe a few months after Rob passed. I mean, you can probably tell by my silly hair. I urge people to look at that just to see what the Robbing Cancer Trust is all about. And okay, well, I tell you what, I think I've exhausted you with questions, so I'm not going to ask you anymore. You've been really open and honest. And just tell us where people can... Yeah, of course.
The Robbing Cancer Trust, and you can contact them by...
So we're on all social medias at RCT Charity, or the website, therobbingcancertrust.org. It's anyone testicular or ovarian or germ cell cancer, please get in touch. And, for anyone listening, if you're concerned about anything medically, please just go and see your doctor. It could save your life.
I think that's how we ought to end on that one.
Definitely.
Don't you?
Well, thanks very much, Toby, for that. That's, I think your aim of your trust is terribly overlooked on so many levels.
Yeah.
And we hear this constantly, that people are being diagnosed well in advance with advanced cancers because they haven't got themselves tested. Thank you very much, Toby.
Really appreciate it. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
And we will hopefully have everybody tune in next week as well, won't we? We'll let you know on social media what we're going to be doing.
Yeah. Thanks very much, everybody, for listening.
Yeah, thank you for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Who's Tom and Dick podcast with your hosts, Martin Weavers and Patrick Mortimer. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite streaming platform. New episodes are available every Friday. Thanks for tuning in.